How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, and Apple sheep everywhere? How's everyone doing this fine day? We've got already 32 people watching, just tuning in. Yeah, there's no meaning behind the thumbnail. It was just kind of a like. I think we just talked about the Huawei thing, which I thought was funny because they're scoring super super high, and now we're getting all these phones with dual cameras and triple cameras scoring higher than the Pixel 2. But no need, right? No dual camera, no need. Anyway, that's what I thought it was good for. 10 plus, no need. New iPad, no need. All of the no needs, of course. That's the best. Take a lesson from Google's book of marketing, which is to not add the features that all other smartphone companies have. Instead, just directly mention the features you do not have and then tell people they don't need those features. Smart. You're thinking through this thing, Google. You're thinking through it all. Yeah, fresh trim. Literally got it just about an hour ago. Yeah. It was getting hot here in California, so having shorter hair helps with that. Yeah. S9 definitely no need. Definitely. Definitely no need. Um, let's see. You see the new WatchOS 4.3 new charging animation. Watch the new colors in extra large color. I haven't seen the new colors, but I did see the new watch charge animation. That's something actually developers have had for a while, which was a part of it was, I think, the bringing nightstand mode to portrait mode, which is one step closer to AirPower, which we still have no news on. Everyone thought it would be the end of March, but nay. In fact, we'd probably see an approval from the FCC before AirPower got unveiled. So we're probably waiting for that. Once And it seems like that's what everyone's talking about on Twitter right now, which is the fact that the OnePlus 6 is confirmed to have a notch. But I thought they already talked about that. I remember reading that article when the CEO sent it out and said, okay, look, this new thing called the notch, I think is the best for everyone. And then in all the replies, everyone showed the Twitter polls of how many people who are OnePlus fans did not want the notch, which I just thought was hilarious. So yeah, it didn't go anywhere. They love making fun out of things that they will do later. Exactly right. Well, and the other argument that's going on right now is, well, Essential did it first, but we all know why Essential did it the way they did. Essential, everyone knew exactly what the iPhone 10 was going to look at the time the Essential phone came out. So it was like we knew the iPhone 10 was going to have a 5.8-inch display. We knew the iPhone 10 was going to have a cutout at the top. So Essential basically did the iPhone 10 before the iPhone 10 came out. And the Essential phone sold horribly. So it's not like OnePlus 6 saw the successful Essential phone because it wasn't a successful phone and decided, oh, we should do what the Essential phone company did. No, they clearly saw the iPhone 10 success and said, okay, well, let's do that because Apple did it. That's what I mean on Twitter by saying, no, they did not copy the Essential phone. If the Essential phone was the only phone with a notch, no one else would be doing the notch. Anyway, Anthony super chatted. Thank you very much. No question, but I still appreciate it. Then after that, we have Andrew Burns has finally traded Pixel 2 for iPhone 8, and I love it. Yay! We've converted someone. Thank you very much. That was a great decision, Andrew. Don't believe people in the chat. He loves it. What? He gained wireless charging. He gained 4K at 60. He gained a True Tone display. He gained a faster CPU. He gained so much with that swap out. Your iPad Pro comes today. Congratulations, Brian. Do you think AirPower will work with the Apple Watch Link bracelet or the leather loop? I noticed that they have slowly been removing the Link and Milanese loop from Apple stores. The Link bracelet, I'm not so sure about because I know for a fact that wireless charging, inductive charging, does not work through metal. It does work through plastic, and I assume, yeah, leather. You can have a leather case and it'll still wirelessly charge. So if you have a leather loop, I guess there's magnets in that, so it may or may not work. I'm not sure. AirPower, I guess, is just not universally watch friendly. It's probably better for the sport and nylon type watch bands, but I don't know. We'll see how that works. I'm not sure, unless they've found a way to do it. Let's see. How do you feel about Apple making their own processors, and have you chance been able to use the developers 11.4 update and its new features yet? What new features? We got 11.4. Yeah, I have 11.4 on my iPhone and iPad. There's nothing changed. They brought back some features that they turned off, but yeah, it's basically just me making sure I keep up to date to the latest OS. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know that 11.4 basically changed nothing. 11.4, no need. Yeah. Uh, your thoughts on MKBHD's April Fool's Day video? Okay, so you guys may have guessed this by my latest video, but I'm not a fan of April Fool's Day. I just hate that you go on YouTube and there's all these videos that are just complete nonsense. Everything's just irrelevant and nothing is actually real. That's just kind of annoying to me, and it's not funny. Um, I guess it was super obvious with the Marquez video. He wasn't fooling anyone because I think that was literally a Sonos speaker. It was kind of funny. But I don't like participating in it because I just find it annoying. So I just passed on April Fool's Day. I had family in town, so I was just like, yeah, let's just pass on April Fool's Day. Let's just go offline for a while. Tammy Super Chat, it says, what is the box in the corner? So there's several boxes in the corner. One was the iLife Beatles series robot cleaner, basically a Roomba. And then that is my growing cardboard collection that needs to be taken out. See, for the office, we have a very small dumpster. That won't fit in the dumpster. So we have to gather it all and find a bigger dumpster. But basically, all the new lights, we got new lighting setups. All those came in the big box. So yeah. There must be a story behind you hating April Fool's Day. It's not a specific story. It's just every single April Fool's Day is just kind of frustrating. Who likes to be fooled? You know, it's not like Christmas where it's like, let's all give each other things, or Thanksgiving where we all be thankful for each other. April Fool's is literally like, let's trick ourselves and make everyone disappointed and sad and upset. It's like, why? What do we have to gain from that? Anyway, Anthony Super Chat, says, what's your favorite Apple product? It's all built around the iPhone. iPhone's the key to everything. iPhone unlocks the ecosystem. So yeah, iPhone 10 for sure. Apple Reviews Super Chatted. Thank you very much. I genuinely thought it was real until my Sonos ones went on. Yeah, it was, to me, it was obvious. I saw the thumbnail and I was like, okay, that's not a Bixby speaker, but whatever. It'll be very awkward, like Marquez said. It'll be very awkward when the actual Bixby speaker comes out, which that's rumored to happen. You wanted to send a message? It gave me no option to send chat. Yeah, well, you have to donate. I believe the way Super Chat works is you have to donate over $1 or £1 or whatever in order to send a text with the Super Chat. You missed a great opportunity of making a video that why you love the Pixel ecosystem. I could have. I'm annoyed when everyone does it at the same time. I'm not against kind of like joke videos, but when every channel's doing it simultaneously, it just kind of gets annoying. Dan Super Chatted, what's your least favorite Apple product? I could say probably the new iPad. I'm just not a fan of it, especially after making yesterday's or today's video. The new 2018 iPad with the compared to the budget 2016 iPad Pro, I just didn't understand why. What's the point of the new iPad? It's like they changed so little and yet charge the same. I think it would have been more exciting if the 2017 budget iPad costed like $250 or $260. And if you are going to update it so that it supports the Apple Pencil, it should be bundled with the Apple Pencil. Who would just buy that for the A10 chip? That's it. I don't know. It's a perfectly working product. I just found it unnecessary. I would have rather just the old iPad Pro get cheaper than the new budget iPad, which changes two things and adds a color. I didn't hate the iPod. I just think the iPod's time is past. We don't need iPods anymore. They don't need to exist. I don't know why the Mini 4 still exists. That is mind-boggling to me. Either refresh it or discontinue it. And at this point, it feels like they're about to discontinue it. But why do they keep selling it? Mini 4 starts at $400, and it has an A8 chip. It's the same CPU as a HomePod, and they're still selling that full price. Which is just bizarre. I don't know about that. If Apple didn't exist, what phone would you have owned? It probably, like I say, the Essential phone or a OnePlus, likely. They seem to be the most Apple-like Android companies. After the S9, I can't say Samsung anymore. I didn't enjoy that at all. I still have my iPad 2, bought the budget iPad not long ago, and it is so fast. Oh yeah, well, if you're upgrading from an iPad 2, of course it is. But yeah, that's my point is if people are just looking for cheap budget tablet, that's all they're looking for. A9, A10 chip, I mean, if the main purpose is budget, is that really going to make a difference? I mean, things export faster and apps load up a little bit quicker, but I mean, the camera's the same, the Touch ID is the same. Are you exporting stuff all the time on your 2017 iPad and you need to refresh it? I just feel like people who spend that little on the tablet, who are going for the lowest of the low, they probably aren't doing some heavy intensive stuff on it. So it probably would have been more interesting if they just kept selling the 2017 iPad at an even lower price, like lowered it from 330 down to like 260. I don't know, but not counting the iPhone 10, what iPhone gave you the most excitement while unboxing and why? What other product came close on terms of excitement? That's a good question. Thank you, Tammy, for your super chat. I'd probably say the 6 Plus because my first iPhone was an iPhone 5 back in my freshman year of high school. And then 2 years after, iPhones were not this little 4-inch display. We're blown them up to 5.5. And that was very noticeable the first time you got it. So that was a big noticeable change that everyone was kind of like, whoa. So unboxing that for the first time was really cool. I think I filmed that unboxing. Yeah, I think that unboxing's still on the tech channel, but it's way back when I was in the attic. That was a long time ago. But yeah, that was very exciting. Should I spend an extra $200 for a 7 instead of an SE? The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. I mean, if the headphone jack's something you care about, then stick with the SE because that still has that. 7 doesn't. But yeah, I believe 7 has a better CPU, probably more color options. And yeah, that's fairly decent camera. But I guess that is an extra $200. That's a lot. You could just stick with the SE and then buy AirPods or put that money towards another product like an Apple Watch. I don't know. Yeah, you'd probably be fine with either. Get Jack Andrews saying he got a 7, get his second hand as long as it's in good condition, which probably will work. Um, Should Apple not allow the Google Assistant on iOS? No, I think they're fine with it. It's kind of a one-way street where they're like, yeah, you can put Google Drive on iOS, but we're not putting, iCloud Drive on Android. So it's kind of like if you buy an iPhone, you have every service option, whereas if you buy an Android, you don't. As in, with an iPhone, you can have Google Photos, you can have Google Drive, you can have Google Calendar, Gmail, but you can also have Apple Music and iMessage. So kind of keeping that ecosystem of that's native to Apple's while also allowing others kind of makes them the only phone you need. Why did Apple keep the 6S in the lineup this year? I think they usually keep the last couple generations because it's not terribly old. I mean, Google discontinued phones that were around the 6S era, but Apple wants to keep selling those. Maybe they just have them in stock and they're trying to get rid of them. But on top of that, they're not bad phones. You can get them pretty cheap, and for the people out there who are diehard headphone jack followers, you can say Apple still sells phones with headphone jacks. They're still available. So yeah, I think traditionally though, Apple always keeps around the last couple generations, which would just be 7, 6S, and then the SE's in there. So I mean, I don't know why they would discontinue it that quickly. I'm not interested in jailbreaking. No, I've done it. Not interested. Anthony says, "What do you think Apple will name the next iPhone?" I think they'll go by the year 2018 iPhone and 2018 iPhone 10 Plus. I don't watch esports. No. Do you think Apple finally got the message that Siri is seriously outclassed with rumors of recent hires at Apple? Do you think this is a reaction to poor HomePod sales? No, I don't think it's sales of the HomePod because I heard that actually sold pretty well for a smart speaker of that price. like compare it to something like the Google Home Max. I heard the HomePod wasn't that big of a flop, but I think the PR behind Siri is probably what they're tackling. Is they just know that the Google Assistant has the access to all of Google and can answer questions, a lot of random questions very quickly. So they're probably trying to turn around the PR for Siri very quickly, which is great that Apple's actually doing something about it, unlike Samsung, which is doing nothing about Bixby. But I don't think it's because of weak HomePod sales. And personally, as someone who, keep in mind, still has Google Home Minis and still has the Google Home Max, I've tried to sell it. You know what? No one wants it. No one's interested in buying it, and I'm not selling it to fans just because shipping that thing will be annoying. It's extremely heavy and it takes up a lot of space. But so I was just trying to sell it, locally. But on top of that, it's just a very Google Assistant can do a couple more things Siri can do, but for the most part, what I need a smart speaker to do, Siri can do just fine. I ask her to play podcasts, change the color of the lights, turn the lights on and off, play music. That's what I ask from my smart speaker, and I don't just talk to it and ask it random questions all the time. I guess that's something that's important to people, but to me personally, in my experience, the Google Assistant is a lot dumber than people realize. And Siri's not as dumb as people make her out to be. I think all digital assistants are very close in terms of what they can do. I don't think it's a giant spectrum, other than like Bixby, which is way down here. Bixby can't like turn on the flashlight or open the calculator when I ask for like a simple calculation. Watch the review if you don't believe me. Anyway, we got some more super chats from Fame TV, who says, "Will we need dual camera when we get optical zoom?" There's a reason I think optical zoom really hasn't been modernized yet. It's probably because it's too expensive or too complicated to manufacture. So I'm guessing that it's easier to just have two sensors, two cameras, and that's why companies are doing that. So I think we're going to keep dual cameras, or start even to see the trend of triple cameras, as well. The Huawei's getting such high scores. Google's going to be jealous of that. So yeah, I don't think optical zooms are going to kill the dual camera. Personally, I could be wrong though. Thank you, Daniel Curry, for your super chat. Jerry says, "Should I buy the iPhone 10 or wait using iPhone 6?" I think you're pushing it now. I think you're getting near that downhill stretch. We're now in April and new iPhones come out in September. So if you buy an iPhone 10 now, for the most part, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fine. But yeah, you're getting to that point now where like you'll only own it for 5 months now, and it'll be the latest flagship. And then after that 5 months, no longer the latest flagship. But yeah, it'll probably be okay. But I'd say make your decision now. If you can't afford one right now, just go ahead and save for the next one. Absolute Zeros has been watching since last April. Good job with the channel growth. Couldn't think of a question. Sorry. That's okay. I'm just appreciative of your guys' super chats. Thank you. I'm hoping Apple will make an SE too, but yeah, there's not been any more developments of it. If it does come out, it'll likely be at WWDC. What do you think of Spotify? Why do you prefer Apple Music over Spotify, except the ecosystem benefits? Why do you have to exempt my reason? It's like me asking you, why do you prefer Spotify, but don't list any of the reasons you like Spotify? For one, Apple Music has a cheaper plan. You can pay for it $99 a year, which saves you $20 every 12 months, and Spotify doesn't do that. Apple Music's collection is also growing a lot faster, a lot quicker. But yeah, on top of that, the primary reason is both of these services are very similar. They both do very similar things. That's why comparing them is kind of silly, is because they're almost identical services. But on top of that, I like to go on runs and I like going on my bike. And when I do that, I listen to music on just my Apple Watch via cellular, and the Apple Music on my watch can stream with that, where Spotify, I can't do that. If I wanted to use Spotify, first of all, it's not always optimized for my iPhone. Second of all, even if I switch to Android, Apple Music's on that anyway. So it's not like it's only because it works on my iPhone. First of all, I love the HomePod. It's the best sounding smart speaker. Switch to Spotify, I couldn't use that side of the HomePod. So again, it's like a lot of the primary reasons are around the ecosystem. So if you just like cancel out the reasons, it's kind of a difficult argument. But yeah, it's technically cheaper, and the music selection's growing a lot faster. Your thoughts on Apple's angle on privacy? I think Michael Brown, thank you for your question. I think they handle it pretty well because Apple's one of those last companies that focuses on selling products, just hardware. Whereas a lot of people out there are getting into the use of the hey, Chromebooks are cheap and Android's great because it has all these options. But they don't realize that when you get into that Google services, and as we've already seen with things like with what Facebook went down, is that when you get into the new free stuff and you become into and invested in all the free services, you are the product. It's your data those companies sell, and that's how they make their profit. Apple's kind of one of the last companies that doesn't really do that. They just kind of make hardware. They make their phones, they make their tablets, and they sell those. They're selling the product, whereas it seems like a lot of companies, especially Facebook and Google, have kind of, and even Microsoft to an extent with Windows 10, how often there's backups of that and how much data they collect on that. You become the product at that point. Whereas Apple's just never really been known to do that. They've never really been known to sell user data to other companies so that they can research it and stuff like that. So, yeah, if you're going for privacy and you're looking for a company that's going to provide you with the best privacy overall, Apple's still the way to go, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, still, your data being sold is quite near inevitable these days. So I'm not saying you can't avoid it. I'm just saying you'd probably be better off. You'd probably be better off if going with an iPhone if you're concerned about your privacy reasons. Like with the big Facebook scandal everyone was talking about, if you had Facebook account, which most people do, and an Android phone, Facebook could access a lot more than you could if you just had an iPhone. iOS was a lot more locked down, whereas if you had an Android, they could look at your phone call history and they could see a lot more. So yeah, it wasn't good for Android. Thank you, Daniel Curry, for super chatting again, who says, what do you believe the next biggest feature is for smartphones, whether it's software or hardware? I mean, everyone's just in the bezel-less craze right now, and we're going to be tackling that for the next few years, 2, 3 years, maybe 5 even, just trying to get rid of that little space around the display as much as possible and try to make that invisible, because that's clearly all anyone cares about these days is how small can your notch be and how small can your chin be, which really adds nothing to the experience, but it just kind of shows you how much we're running out of functional features for our smartphones. To try to come up with a new one every year, it's becoming more and more challenging. So that's when they go the route of aesthetics. How pretty can we make our phone? And that's how it'll sell, is just how good it looks. Let's see. What do you think the best part is of the Apple ecosystem? I'd say it's the exclusivity, because I make tweets about that sometimes, is when people are like, Apple makes it really easy to get tangled up in the ecosystem and then you can't leave it. And I'm like, why? Because there's not an alternative. Like there's no ecosystem that allows you to have that amount of optimization from watch to phone to tablet to laptop to Mac to TV. Like there's no ecosystem that supports that wide of continuity and fluidity. Is that how they get you entangled? By just having something no one else has? That's how I would describe it. At least that's how I see it. What's the link for your merch? Okay, your mind's gonna be blown here. It's in the description of every single video I upload. That's where you get the link for all my merch. I know it's crazy. I no one even thinks to put it there, but yeah, it's there. Thank you, Apple Reviews. Says we can get the P20 in the UK. I will send you one if you send me an iPhone 10. No thanks. I'll take my iPhone 10, which can shoot 4K at 60, unlike the Huawei. Johnny Ive can't achieve his vision of a perfect iPhone until there's no notch, no lightning port, no SIM slot, antenna bands, etc. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he said is his ideal phone is basically a sheet of glass. And that's essentially what we have. It's just minute differences in trying to make those thinner. But I'm kind of okay with the thickness of current iPhones. I don't think we need those to be thinner. I'm glad that phones have kind of a rigidness to them. Let's see, people being. Wow, the description. Yeah, I know it's insane. I want a software/hardware feature where there's an extra battery and friends can send each other bits of their battery percentage. Well, that would be interesting, but yeah, I'm not sure if that's possible. Anyway, let's try to clean up some of the chat here. Sorry about that. What's your thoughts on a whole bunch of new Android phones having a notch? I mean, what do we expect these days? Is this a new thing? The idea that everyone hates something Apple does and then everyone does it anyway? This is incredibly normal. I mean, I'm not shocked by this. That's why people are like, "Did you know the OnePlus 6 is going to have a notch?" And it's like, has OnePlus had a track record for original designs? I mean, I thought the big thing with the OnePlus 5 was that it was like an identical replica of the iPhone 7, like to the color, which I thought was off. I was like, okay, dual camera and the flash being in the exact same spot and the logo being in the exact same spot. I mean, that's kind of coincidental, but the fact that they made the colors identical to the iPhone's colors, the size of the display is the same, and the pixel per inch was the same, and the fingerprint reader is same as the iPhone. The fact that they went for that, I was just kind of like, come on, you could have made it a little more unique than that. What do you think about the thickness of the Apple Watch? Honestly, it's one of the Apple products though you don't hold. So does the thickness of the Apple Watch really make that big a difference? Because it's something you wear. You're not grasping your Apple Watch. It's just there, and it's incredibly light. So as in, if the next Apple Watch is the same thickness, I don't mind. That's fine. It's just if it is thinner, that's also cool, and we'll be good with that too. But I think most people would likely be fine with most people would likely be fine with the thickness it's at now and just a larger battery life. Anyway, if you could get rid of one tech company, which would it be? Personally, if I had to hit just delete on a specific tech company, it wouldn't be the whole company. It would just be, to me, the hardware team at Google. I don't think they do a good job on most things. There's certain things I like that they do. I think they nailed the smart speakers. The Google Home Mini is really cheap. People like them. Google Home Max really loud, pretty cool. But in terms of the Pixel Book and the Pixel 2, I just think there should be a king of Android. I think there should be an Android phone that you don't have to compromise on anything. It's just, oh, that Android phone has it all. See, it's very easy for us Apple users to do that because we just have the lineup of iPhones. It's very simple. You can just go to Apple's website and you can see the ranking of the better phones. So if you want the best iPhone, you get the 10. If you want something a little cheaper, but with the premium specs, you get the 8. If you want a more budget one, get a 7 or a 6S. If you want a smaller one, get an SE. It's pretty simple. Whereas with the Android lineup, because of its diversity and because there's so many companies making different kinds of Android, there's no like takeaway winner. You have to compromise on something no matter what. So if you're going for all the best features, all the dual camera support, all the iris scanning, face unlock, wireless charging, you go with the S9, of course. But then you realize what I did, and you have this skinned version of Android that's so frustrating to use, it's almost not worth it. And to me, it wasn't. It got to the point where notifications and the Samsung apps and the Google apps coexisting was so awkward and frustrating that I was like, this isn't even worth it. I don't even want to use this. So people's result is like, well, then you want to use stock Android. So go with a Pixel 2, but then you lose out on the included headphones. You even have to pay a little bit more. You lose out on wireless charging. You lose out on that dual camera. Even DxOMark agrees S9 has a better camera with more options. You lose out on that 4K at 60. You lose out on iris scanning if you prefer that. You get thicker bezels. So you can't win. Like no matter what Android phone you have, there's some other Android phone that has more features than that. So it's too scattered to me, which makes it more complicated. But anyway, Diego Super Chat, it says, I love your channel. Can you give me a shout out? This is your shout out, Diego. Thank you. And that's about the extent of shout outs I can do, because if I did an in-video shout out for every $2.99 super chat, it would be insanity and you guys would hate it. But that's what I'll shout out. Thank you, Diego. Lucas says, what do you expect from WWDC 2018 regarding hardware and software? Also, really like your great work. Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate it. So I'm anticipating, for one, new iPads, the new iPad Pros with the Face ID, same size bezel, no home button, likely no Touch ID. So that I think is a given. People are expecting that. We're also expecting the CPU upgrades on the MacBook lineup. I'm not anticipating a design refresh. I think for the most part, all the MacBooks will look the same. They'll just have upgraded CPUs. maybe better prices, better solid state options. If we have some wild cards, though, I would say maybe the Mac Pro redesign reveal. iMac Pro was unveiled at WWDC last year, but it didn't come out, of course, until December, but they at least revealed it at WWDC. So they might do that with the Mac Pro, and we'll get an idea of what the starting price is, what it looks like, and how it works. And then the other wild card I would say is the redesigned SE, which has been in talks for a long time. But yeah, we're not entirely sure if it's officially happening. We're just unsure. One Viper says, "What's up, Drew? You got the man about tech tuning in. Keep doing your thing." Thank you, One Viper. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah. New iPhone 10 colorway. Is it going to happen? I thought it was. We literally had rumors before the Apple Education event that were the polar opposite of what actually happened. They were saying iPhone 10 in gold coming very, very soon, and then a new $330 iPad coming out in Q3. The exact opposite happened. There was no mention of the gold iPhone, but the new $330 iPad came out that day. So they got it completely backwards. So yeah, I have no idea what to credit to. Well, this must happen and this must not happen. Of course, no one knows. It's all theorized, but yeah, it's hard to say for sure what's going to happen exactly until it happens. But clearly, even people who have insight don't know things. But Venya Geskin, who we actually DM each other occasionally, so we talk one-on-one quite often, was saying that the iPhone 8 Plus is getting a product red color. But I always wish we could cite more sources for that. It's like, so what happened? What occurrence led you to believe, oh, iPhone 8 color is happening? Because it's like, is it just Foxconn? Is it a factory buying like a bunch of red paint? So then the word gets out. It's like, oh, they bought a bunch of red paint from this company, means the iPhone 8 Plus is coming red. Like, what exactly do you read that leads you to that rumor that you can just tweet out without a source? Could that red paint that they all buy up just be used for, the ringer switch so that when you make it on silent, it turns red on the inside? Is that what the paint's for? I don't know how it works. Anyway, James super chatted, says, which Apple product is a ripoff in your opinion? None of them are a ripoff. There's products that are probably more expensive to people who wouldn't use them. So not to me, but maybe people out there who just have no use for a HomePod would not buy a HomePod. They're like $350 for a speaker. I don't need that. So I could see someone saying HomePod's a ripoff. I could see someone say maybe the Hermé watch band is just very, very expensive, and I'm not really sure why. It just kind of looks like an average watch band. So I'd be like, the Apple Book for sure is a ripoff. I would never buy that. That's just too much money for a book. To me, that seemed like a test of like, what can we get away with here? Like, what can we sell? And personally, if we want to talk about actual product line, most people would disagree, but I'm just not impressed with the 2018 iPad. I just think that the main purpose of that iPad, the main new feature, I don't think is the CPU. That's just a little bit better, but the main purpose of that tablet is it now supports the Apple Pencil, and that's not included. You still have to spend $99, which at that point you're $430 into the budget iPad experience. And for $430, you can get a brand new unopened 2016 iPad Pro, and that gets you the laminated display, the True Tone, the better camera, the smart connector, of course, the Apple Pencil support. I think it's a little thinner even, so I was just like, what's the point of this? I don't know why that needed to exist. I didn't see the Asus laptop with a notch, but that's funny. But when does the iPad Pro release? It'll be this summer, this June, probably early June. Yeah, because we know the WWDC date, which is it's not on the homepage. I guess they moved it back. It's June 4th, I believe. June 4th, we'll get a new iPad Pro keynote. Yes, I have the 3rd gen Apple Watch. Let's see. I mostly use Adobe Spark and iMovie. Is it okay to buy a used iPad or should I buy an used iPad Pro? I recommend if you're going used to go Pro because used means the battery's been used a little bit, but the Pros are going to have a little bit nicer specs anyway. So yeah, if you're going the used market, get a little bit more of an expensive product that's used. That way you're getting a deal. Whereas if you get a used budget product, then it's just so little money, it's just not even worth it. Just don't bother. Just save your money, get something nicer. Um, yeah. Wait, can't you just get that Logitech Crayon instead of the Apple Pencil when it's launched? It would be half the price of the Apple Pencil, making the iPad/stylus package a more appealing setup. My guess is the reason it's probably $50 for a reason. My guess is the Apple Pencil is probably better in some way, shape, or form, or charges better, or works better with pressure sensitivity. I assume there's a reason the Crayon is half the price. I'm not sure what it is, but it's probably just not as good an experience. I think the new iPad is awesome for budget conscious people. 2016 iPad Pro plus Apple Pencil costs way too much. Well, I'm saying I would rather trade buying a whole new $99 stylus for all of those features. If that's what it comes down to me. Unless you're an artist who just needs an Apple Pencil to draw stuff on, but you don't have much money, which I don't know if that's a common scenario. I would rather have, if the choice was, do you want an Apple Pencil or do you want stereo speakers, laminated display, True Tone, and a better camera and a smart connector? I would be like, no, those features are going to be more appreciated than the Apple Pencil support. The Apple Pencil's cool. I still use mine. It's just I would rather have all those other features, which would overall cost the same price of you buying a 2018 iPad with Apple Pencil. No, Tech Wiz, if you watched yesterday's video or today's video, you'd know I'm not getting the 2018 iPad. It's just, what's the point? This supports Apple Pencil. It's got thinner bezels. It's laminated. It's True Tone. It's got loudspeakers. What do I need to do? Just buy it and tell you it's fine? Am I that desperate for ideas? I don't think I don't think I'm that desperate yet. Do you think that I should buy an iPhone 10 or wait until the new ones come out? You know what? Just wait for the new one. Just wait. You're close enough. It's 5 months away. Just save your money and get a nice one. The new iPad is just for people without an iPad right now. Yeah, but I would have preferred if you just need a new iPad and you want to spend the least amount of money possible, just buy the 2017 budget iPad, which isn't from Apple, but you can get it elsewhere for really, really cheap, and it's still an Apple product. So like, anywhere you buy it from is likely going to have the 30-day return policy anyway. So it's just if you need budget, go with last year's model. Get an older iPad. Don't get the brand new cheap one, which is just hypocritical to me. Notifications on iOS, your opinion. So I had a little rant about this in the S9 review, but I'm guessing a lot of the new subscribers probably didn't see that. So a lot of people complain about notifications on iOS because I don't think they understand how it works. On Android, at least, especially with the S9, you have to be used to constantly hitting allow on everything because even taking a screenshot has to ask permissions to access the photo gallery. It's like, no, I just wanted to take a screenshot and then delete it immediately. Of course, phone. It would literally ask, do you want contacts to have access to contacts? You had to allow contacts to access itself. So you're used to on Android hitting allow all the time. So when an Android user comes over to iOS, or someone that is all these YouTubers that use two phones at the same time, it's like I carry around both with me, which is just kind of, I don't know. It defeats the point of the review, in my opinion. When I review a product, I use that product solely. I don't carry around my iPhone 10 and my S9. When I reviewed the S9, the iPhone 10 stayed home. That way I could experience what not having the iPhone is like and just having that. Whereas I think YouTubers who have two phones on them at all times, they don't get to experience the downfalls of not having the better option. They can just say, oh, I need AirDrop, or oh, I need this more optimized app, so I can just take out the iPhone and use that. And then they don't experience the downfalls of just solely using Android. But My issue is certain apps on iOS you shouldn't really hit allow, especially if they send you a lot of notifications. That's something I like about iOS. Um, is that when you get a new app, it asks you, can we send you notifications? It's not, here's a bunch of random notifications we're not even going to ask, and then you have to mute it yourself later. It's just, do you want notifications? And if it's an app like Twitter that blows up all the time, I'm going to say, no, you don't access notifications. You get the badge app icon so that when you open your phone, you can be like, oh, there's 17 notifications on Twitter I can check. But of course, I don't want every single notification on my lock screen. But for some reason, every time someone installs a third-party app, they have to hit allow. It's probably because, like I said, they're used to Android where they're hitting allow constantly and they're not even reading it or thinking about it. And if you want I can understand people wanting the collapsible menu. So if there's a bunch of notifications, they should break that down into one thing. I get that, but at the same time, you don't want to just be browsing all of your messages, browsing all your notifications from the lock screen. If you're going to be spending that much time in the lock screen, just open a phone. Just use the actual app. I feel like people don't get it. And yeah, definitely Apple needs to find a way to make that more intuitive, because clearly when Apple tries to give people the control, like, do you want notifications? Everyone just ignores it. Allow. And then my notifications are all blowing up. It's annoying. Disadvantages of having an Apple ecosystem. People keep asking that, and I'm saying, well, if it's my main benefit to using Apple, I don't know. It's like saying disadvantages to exercise. It's like, I mean, what? I mean, I guess you're tired. I mean, what's with the disadvantages of the Apple ecosystem? It costs a lot. I don't know. It's not going to convince. There's no disadvantage that's not worth it to me. That's obviously why I'm using it. But let's see. The point of collapsing notifications is so you can see all your different notifications at once instead of all from one app. Again, if you're getting 10 plus notifications from an app at a time, then open the phone. That's what a full notification, that's what a full lock screen should symbolize. If your lock screen is full of text, then it means that, oh, you need to open your phone and check some things rather than just do the whole thing from the lock screen. And it's very hypocritical as someone who's such a supporter of Android, because Android phones are always anti-lock screen in the first place. Android phones are always unlock immediately as soon as you're looking at it, and you can't even read the notification. You have to immediately go to the home screen. At least with the S9, you have to turn that off. I haven't worn an Android Wear watch in a long time, so I don't know if it constantly pings you with the annoying notifications, but I don't need to, because I know they're not better than Apple Watches. Do you think that the iPhone 10 will be good for 2 or 3 years? Oh yeah, easily. It'll get support for 4 to 5 at least. I mean, the original iPhone still works, so yeah, it's gonna work fine. Matthew says, "How do I make DIY lighting? PS, can you shout out?" This is as much as I can shout out. Thank you, Matthew, for your super chat. There are specific edited video shout outs I can give via Patreon. You guys check out Tailosive on Patreon and donate there. But yeah, if I had to give a verbal edited shout out to anyone who donated $2.99, it would be insane, and you guys wouldn't like it, believe me. You should use Pixelbook for a week. How? I can't edit on there. There's no video editing app. There's nothing I could do with it. There's nothing on there I would use it for. Watching YouTube videos, that would be it. Besides, I already have a 120 hertz display to do that on anyway, which is much better. I used the iPhone 10, believe it or not. I know that's a big surprise. Do you rate the Mac Mini? Sure, I rate it. What's the supposed price of the budget iPhone with the 10 design? I guess the 6.1-inch one's rumored, and I'm still not exactly sure if that's happening. That's rumored to start at $700, which really isn't that much budget. It's just cheaper, I guess. But $700 still is not really that much of a budget phone. Oh, sorry, Lucas. Yeah, when do you think AirPower will be released? Again, I guess I saw that and I should have said something, but I guess I have no idea. When do I think? At this point, they might just wait till WWDC because we're likely going to hear about um, the FCC approving the AirPower to sell before it actually comes out. And so far, the FCC hasn't approved it yet. So we're going to get a fairly big warning because we'll get the approval. It'll be like AirPower is now legally able to sell, and then we'll be like, okay, it's probably 2 weeks away or something. And since we haven't gotten that, it means that it's not soon. So it could very easily be delayed till WWDC. Let's see. And you guys ask a lot of questions. Do you monetize? Yes, I monetize. That's how I get paid. Could they add to AirPods 2? Better battery, better sound, W2 chips, stuff like that. Will Apple skip iPhone 9? I think so. Something seems to be wrong with that number, and no one wants to use it. Levy says for average uses, 15-inch MacBook Pro or 4K iMac and iPad Pro 12.9. For average uses, all of those will be fine. It depends on what you're doing with all those. But yeah, for average uses, I don't know, I'd rather take two products than one. I'd rather have a 4K iMac and an iPad Pro than just a MacBook Pro, personally. That's what I'm going to be switching to, as I've discovered that since my Blackmagic camera, the big one, it's right here. Someone was asking what camera I shoot with. This is it. It's called a Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4K, which shoots 4K at 60. That's what all the tech vids are shot on. I can't edit that footage on my MacBook, so there's no point in really me keeping it around anymore. If I need to edit something, it's got to be on the iMac Pro, anyways. So I'm selling the MacBook Pro, and then I'm gonna get the Face ID enabled iPad Pro that comes out this summer, and that'll be just my mobile general use consumption device. Lucas says, "Thank you for the answer. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it." Which companies do you respect / hate the most? I mean, respect obviously Apple. They help me do what I do. My life is changed every day because of the products they make. It shapes the way I live. And then hate would probably just be not the entirety of Google, but just the Pixel hardware team is so confusing to me. I don't understand any part of it. I get Samsung, I get OnePlus, I get Essential. Just the Pixel one is so confusing. I don't get it. How much is the MacBook Pro you're selling? I believe someone has dibs on it. They're just waiting to sell their MacBook, but it's going to sell for like $1,500. There's no really new MacBook rumors other than Apple patents a new keyboard tech every week now. But yeah, there was basically one for like a e-ink kind of keyboard where the keys it's all one touch screen, but they kind of move as you type on it. So there's a bit more travel while it's still being a touch screen. But R&D is always messing around with stuff. Would you use OnePlus 5T? I would use iPhone 10, but if it was like you can't use an iPhone and there's a gun to my head, then I'll be like, okay, maybe, yeah, sure, I'll try the OnePlus 5T. But honestly, reviewing Android phones is very annoying because especially when you found a phone you like and you want to use it. But then, of course, with this job, everyone's like, well, now do this. Well, now use this phone. And I don't want to give you guys like a half-hearted review and just like use it for a couple minutes and then set it down and then go on with my iPhone 10. So when I review an Android phone, I leave my iPhone behind and I just switch over completely. I put my SIM card in it and that is now my phone. And they all suck. That's why I'm an Apple sheep, is because they text and they browse Twitter, but it's so much more unoptimized and unthought through than what I get through iOS that it's just, I'd rather just use my iPhone. I don't like reviewing every Android phone that comes out. I've never used an Android phone that makes me, oh my God, this changes everything. It's always just kind of like, okay, great. My favorite app, probably Apple Music. It just looks nice, works. Um, Besides the Apple ecosystem, what do you think Apple is doing better? Um, Processing chips, they're obviously top dog on. They get the fastest Geekbench scores with the A10 with the A11 chip. I think hardware wise, they provide a lot of good deals. Like if you think about the fact that the iPad lineup is battling two companies, it's competing with the Chromebook lineup and the Surface Pro lineup. See, Chromebooks are not competing with Surface Pros, and Surface Pros are not competing with Chromebooks. They're two independent lineups. So Chromebooks are really good at being cheap and just being affordable laptops, and Surface Pros are trying to be this. It's really a laptop, but they keep marketing it as a tablet. Whereas an iPad can compete with both. We have iPad Pros that people will choose over Surface Pros, and we have budget iPads people will choose over Chromebooks. So it's a wide spectrum of tablet. Will the bad experience with the S9 stop you from trying the S10, like the Pixel 1 stopped you from getting the Pixel 2? I mean, I wasn't really interested in buying the Pixel 2 because I knew if I bought it, nothing would change. I knew that reviewing it and having it in my hand wasn't going to change my opinion on it at all. Regardless of them, they're both Android phones, and I know I'm not going to like these Android phones as much as my iPhone because I've used at this point more Android phones than iPhones, and I've tried them in different styles. I've tried them in different skins and launchers and stock Androids and in customization. And no matter what I try, it never can really get the optimization and fluidity of iOS. So what's the point? Why keep trying? Why not just keep using I use my phone a lot. So when I switch phones, it's kind of a hassle. Thank you. I'm glad you guys like the haircut. I like it too. Apple A processor and Max in 2020, your opinion? That's great. I've been saying they should do that for years, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's happening in 2020. I wish it would happen this year or next year. A lot of really, really premium stuff for a price that's worth it. Like the iMac Pro, if you were to build it as a PC, would be more expensive. The Apple tax of the iMac Pro is negative $200. Linus Tech Tips did a good review of the iMac Pro, saying like the specs that they go with are incredibly worth it for the price. So that's a good Mac for the money. That's probably not what you were hoping for, but it's just a fact. Apple has changed so dramatically over the last 10 years. How do you think it will change in the next 10 years? I mean, the hardware has changed drastically in the last 10 years, but I don't think the vision has changed. Apple's still selling experiences, not really products. And I think they're going to continue to do that as the R&D, as the technology becomes available, as tech gets smaller and they can embed that into AR glasses and bezels can get smaller and Face ID sensors can be embedded underneath screens. And yeah, it's just the experience is going to get more and more fluid and more seamless. That's all that's really going to be changing. Mhm. Well, keep in mind the PC they built with the iMac Pro specs was $5,200, not 5,000. And on top of that, that's not including the warranty, the iMac's all-in-one design, the cooling, the fans, which are incredibly quiet, the speakers, which are incredibly loud, um, and of course the 1080p camera that I'm using right now. So like that's not counting all of that. Of course, considering 5K monitor and stuff like that, I don't believe you can build a PC that is just as fast because on top of that, you don't have access to Mac OS, which Final Cut Pro on an iMac Pro is incredibly fast export speeds. Will you ever change the color of your ecosystem? I would like to change it this year to silver. I really like the silver iPhone 10. But yeah, that would throw off the iMac Pro a little bit. Why did people keep beating the Steve Jobs is turning in his grave dead horse? That's a good question. I don't know why people keep acting like they know exactly what Steve Jobs would have done. I don't know. He's just such an iconic part of Apple, but People always forget for some reason that Apple's always been controversial. Apple was never just like the crowd pleasing company. Apple's always done controversial things, and Steve Jobs did all kinds of controversial things that most people were against, but then later on became the norm. This is just, it hasn't changed since Steve Jobs has died. There's still, floppy disks were removed, and ports were removed, and CD drives were removed, and all these things that Steve was a part of, and yet they don't really talk about that. They just act like if Steve Jobs was still around, everything would be perfect and none of this would be a problem. And I was like, I think all the stuff happening is exactly what Steve Jobs would have done. I feel like the Jobs mindset of running Apple is still very much present and really hasn't changed very much. Removing headphone jacks, pushing displays all the way to the edge. That sounds like something he would be in favor of. Are the smart lights worth all the money and the hassle? They're a really cool show off feature, but I gotta say they're very expensive for what they do. I wouldn't say the colored ones are worth it. They're just so expensive and complicated, and you have to have Phillips account and email and password and LifeFix account and password to set up just a light that changes a different color. I mean, it's a show off feature. Someone's visiting, and you go, turn the lights on or turn the lights purple, and they change. And everyone's like, whoa. And then that's it. It's like a 10-second impressive thing, but yeah, it's really not worth it. It's handy here and there, especially if you have a smart speaker. If you have smart speakers, it makes sense to make the home more smart. But um, yeah, or it makes sense when you're like watching TV and then you want to dim the lights because you're watching content now, so you can just from your watch or your iPad or whatever just make things go dark, which is fun. It's fun, but it's expensive fun. It's completely toyish. Like turning on a light switch is not a complicated task that we needed computers to handle. But yeah, about that, given the fact that they're basically making an iPhone 10. It's going to have a chin at the bottom with a notch, unlike the iPhone 10. It's going to have a Snapdragon 845, which we know for a fact is not as fast as the A11. If it can record 4K at 60, which it likely won't, but if it can, it likely won't be able to record it for over 5 minutes, unlike the iPhone, which can do it for as long as it pleases. Um, is this the one where they get wireless charging? It'll be curious. I'm curious to see if when companies like OnePlus and likely Essential start adding wireless charging to their budget Android phones, and Huawei has wireless charging, and everyone's has wireless charging, is Google going to keep their iconic glass and plastic back design that prohibits them from wireless charging? Or are they going to remove the interior metal that provided the so-called rigid build, even though it's like, Google, you put the plastic on the inside and the metal on the outside so it feels more premium. They did the exact opposite. It was like, you know what makes a phone feel really premium and nice in the hand? Plastic. Let's make everyone have plastic phones, but charge full price for them. Pixel 2 XL costs more than an S9, and S9 feels much more premium. So Jorge says, hey man, love your show. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. More RAM. Android needs more RAM. They're iOS and Android handle RAM very differently. There's a reason that you literally will get system notifications that will tell you apps are draining battery in the background. Please turn them off, because iOS doesn't want to bother you with those types of notifications. They'll just turn it off in the background. Whereas Android's like, you have too many apps open, close them now. They're bad at Android's very bad at managing RAM. That's why most Android phones have more RAM. Will iPhone turn to ceramic and use wireless charging with that, as it is much stronger than glass, just as the Mi Mix 2S has managed to do so? I think it might be a little too expensive. And I know ceramic is a bit different in terms of reflection, so they'll probably want to keep using Ion-X glass rather than ceramic on the back. They do use it on the Apple Watch, though, and that works. That's what's so confusing about the Essential phone. It's got a ceramic back, but it doesn't support wireless charging, which we know it can. In defense of plastic, it usually results in a better build quality than aluminum. It feels nice, doesn't equal build quality. Okay, well then do you want to look at jerry rig everything? What do we mean by build quality? By the fact that the plastic can scratch easier, and the fact that you could like probably take a fingernail to the plastic and make it show up. I'm saying, would you rather a laptop be made of aluminum or plastic? Which one is going to feel more premium, a MacBook or a Chromebook? That's what we're talking about in terms of build quality. Plastic does not necessarily feel. Do you want to compare? You know what's another phone that had a plastic exterior and a metal interior? The iPhone 5C. Was that a premium feeling phone? Why can't Apple emulate games like the PS1 or 2, but Android can? Well, that's on the developers. That's not on Apple. There's apps that let you do that, but yeah. But anyway, we're going to be seeing very soon. So this is your Apple Ship here, and I'll see you in the next one. Have an excellent day.